Are there other things I should be doing right now, seeing as we're like 5 days out from me leaving the country? Yes, yes, there are. However, instead, I am here to talk to you about my commonplace journal. So, first of all, this is a flip through, and no, the flip through did not need this introduction, but I'm a yapper. Why not assault you all with my face? So, if you haven't seen any of my other videos of me explaining my whack job system, I have two commonplace notebooks. One goes with me everywhere, and the other one is just mostly for home. Kind of came about because I would want to be taking notes on two things at the same time. Because again, I'm a whack job, but now it's just how I function. I can't not have two different commonplace journals. But it's actually worked out because it has been nice to take the pocket-sized journal with me on the go. Without further ado, I'll stop yapping and let you get on to the video. Okay, so these, as I mentioned, are the two commonplace notebooks that I use. They are both moleskin. This one is a lined moleskin, and it is slightly B6 sized-ish. It's a little smaller than the B6 size, so this is a B6 size notebook. It's like skinnier as most moleskins are. They're always skinnier than the standard size, but about the same height. So in case you were wondering. And then this is a grid insert, and I think this is most akin to an A5 size. Again, smaller because it's moleskin. I do prefer the hardcovers because I do prefer to be able to write anywhere, basically. Ask me where stickers are from, I will let you know. Let's go ahead and flip through these. So I'm going to kind of explain like each spread. Again, at the beginning of all of my journals, I do a little bit of a collage moment. If there are topics, subjects, things I want to write down in this specific commonplace notebook, I'll take a little sticky note and I'll put it here in the queue so I remind myself to put it in here. I don't have anything right now because I'm pretty much caught up. So I don't follow the regular commonplace format where there's like a margin on the side to take like extra notes. I just go ahead and I take notes on the page itself, like as I'm reacting to it. You've got recession indicators because I got really into that for some reason after discovering that vampires might be a recession indicator. You'll see here that I have a lot of book club discussion notes because I started participating in a lot of in-person book clubs and also online book clubs, and I just like having something there to bolster my confidence in case there's something that I want to discuss or someone brings something up. Like I want to basically come to the table with receipts or my thoughts in advance. Occasionally, I will watch video essays on YouTube and I'll take notes on them. So this is Read with Cindy's Reading for Empathy video. The story over, Jenny talking about why people are so obsessed with romantasy, some vocabulary, some hilarious comebacks I saw on the internet, and then I reread O Caledonia. I actually read it for the first time this year. I totally forgot that I actually only read it in February. And then I reread it like sometime during the summer, and I took notes the second time around, just writing down quotes and words and things that I wanted to note for later. And this is actually when I started using a very common color coding that you'll see throughout these spreads. So red indicates things I had to like Google. Basically, I didn't know it when I was reading it on the page, and so to enhance my experience or just to learn something, I Googled it. Blue is going to be direct quotes from the book, and then black is just kind of like general notes, things that I want to note down. Oh, this was a really cool thing. The author, Jenny Odell, came to talk at my work, and I just took notes as the talk was happening. Some abandoned spreads where I started talking about things and then I just left off. A little bit of collaging here, just some things I collected from Pinterest. If you see faces of familiar people on here, no you don't. Again, book club. This was my first book club for Sapphic Book Club, and I became known as the girl who brings notes to book club because of this, which is really slightly embarrassing, I guess. Um, More words that I didn't know and wanted to learn more about. Um, Notes on one of my tarot decks so that when I do tarot readings, I have like these notes to really quickly refer to. Like, yeah, of course, I got a Celtic mythology tarot deck. Um, Notes on the Hound of the Baskervilles. I think this is the introduction to the Barnes & Noble Classics version. I actually want to do like a little video on this because I saw someone talk about like which classics editions are best to read for various reasons. I want to do that, but like much less informed. Like just my personal opinion of which classics editions you should read. But anyway, same thing with Tender is the Night, taking notes on that. I hate F. Scott Fitzgerald, so this was me literally saying like I hate this guy over and over again. My notes on Doveglion, the introduction, and like also the afterword, I think, or the author's notes, editor's notes. Couple of book clubs. So The Anthropologist by Aishul Shavash, I think is how you pronounce her name. And then Eternal Summer by Franziska Gansler. Ladies in Hating by Alexandra Vashti. Of course, I did not go to this book club because I literally was like, I would think I was supposed to do something today, and then 5 o'clock rolled around, and I realized that it was book club that I was meant to go to today, and then I just missed it entirely. So, yeah, that sucked. And then I saw a TikTok the other day about the genre of secret histories and how that kind of inspired the book titled The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and how that wasn't like the first book titled The Secret History in English. And so, yeah, I kind of want to read some of these other secret histories, especially the ones about Queen Elizabeth, but I already have a TPR that's too long. So, all right, so that's the end of that notebook. Again, lots of pages left. I don't have anything in this back pocket, as you can tell by the fact that I'm struggling to open it. But that is my little carry-on, my carry-along commonplace notebook. Okay, and then we have my big boy, the love of my life, my favorite journal in the whole wide world. Currently going to have to blur this out, but again, front page collage. I think this is actually the first one I ever did, and I did it at a journaling event, which is really fun, totally memorable. Also, we'll have to redact this, but I have the same cue here on the left side. I used to have a color coding system that since went out the door because I ran out of certain colors a lot faster than the other. So I'll just show you kind of how that changed and evolved over time. Let's skip past these first few pages. Okay, now we're getting into the good stuff and how I eventually gave this notebook its personality. I started taking notes on the books that I was reading. I was primarily focused on nonfiction books that I was reading, but it just quickly devolved into whatever I wanted to take notes on related to literature. I did a reread of How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell because she was coming to talk at my job. And then I read Mediocre by Ijeoma Oluo, which is so good and just so eye-opening. I learned so much from this book. Especially as someone who works in education, it was very eye-opening to read this. As you can tell, I hadn't really gotten to that black, red, blue color coding. I just kind of had two colors that I wanted to take notes with, and that's how these spreads came together. Again, I really enjoyed Mediocre by Ijeoma Oluo, so I took a lot of notes. I also was a complete psychopath, and I just like, there is no such thing as margins on these pages. Like, I literally have a line at the top and then like a line at the bottom, but that's it. I was filling out these pages like a maniac. I used to do some like brain dump talking about stuff in here, but I've kind of since not done that. And then may have seen this before, but I got into Irish Gaelic spelling and pronunciation just because it was really interesting. And yeah, I had a phase, okay? And I started using these stickers because, as you can see, the pen bled through up here. So I was like, okay, let me just put some stickers down and hopefully that'll ameliorate it. It did not really, but that's okay. Um, Again, more like ranting, venting about things. I got really into thrifting this year. Most of the physical media that I bought this year is entirely secondhand. And so when I would go to op shops, thrift shops, secondhand stores, I had this list with me because I wanted to specifically look for things rather than just buy willy nilly. That's a little artifact of my secondhand media journey. Then I made a plan for the San Diego book crawl. It's probably my last year doing the book crawl, if I'm honest. And I can talk about that in a different video, but I just kind of wanted to plan like, okay, I want to get specifically the patch, which funnily enough, I actually don't know where that is now, but I wanted to get the patch. That was the reward for visiting, I think, 5 bookstores. And I only had one day to participate in the book crawl. So I was like, how do I how do I maximize this and try and get to as many places as possible within the day without, I don't know, driving all the way to Carlsbad. um, so yeah, that's just me game planning. Then we have more Celtic mythology because I was really hyper fixated for a while, guys. It was bad. Um, like yeah, I have a clad egg ring now for no reason other than I just had a phase. And then Tess of the D'Urbervilles. I really loved this book. This was so good. Thomas Hardy at his peak angry. Dude was riding hard for Tess and was pissed off that no one was understanding the book the way that he wanted them to understand it without him having to be like very heavy-handed with the messaging. So it was just really interesting to see like the differences that the Penguins Classics people chose for this edition of Tess of the D'Urbervilles, because I think it demonstrates like how fed up Thomas Hardy was and was like, hey, I want you to understand that this is what happened and this is how shitty it is. So I'm going to change the text so you can't misunderstand that. Which again, hilarious. I cannot believe that is how that happened. And then Henry James, I read a short story anthology and I just took notes on each of the short stories. It wasn't my first time reading most of these. I think The Beast in the Jungle was the only one that I hadn't read before. So a lot of this is regurgitating old knowledge of what I know about Henry James's short fiction, but I love his work. So it was really, really nice to kind of revisit this and revisit all that I've learned when it comes to his stories. More words that I was like, hey, how pretentious would it be if these just so casually entered my everyday vocabulary? They haven't, as you probably can tell, but I tried to. Yeah. I think I literally went through my GRE notes, the graduate readiness exam. I don't know what that stands for, but I literally went through those notes for the first time in like 5+ years just to grab some fun vocabulary that I thought I'd sprinkle into my everyday conversation. And then I was a dum-dum who started reading Either Or by Soren Kierkegaard. This is my first Kierkegaard, and for some reason I was like, yes, this is the first one that I should read, not knowing that it's like 4 times the size of his 2 other books. There's like 3 books in this canon, and I chose the longest and hardest to get through first. I didn't know at the time, but that's what happened, so I started taking notes. This is a little bit of research beforehand. I looked on Philosophy Now for this information, and then I started reading my Penguin Classics copy. This is me taking notes, and this is when I think I started implementing the black, blue, red color scheme. So red things I have to Google blue quotes directly from the text and then notes. Oh yeah, you can see it right here. This is when I definitely started using this color coding scheme. At some points, it gets a little difficult to understand, so I literally went on Reddit and I printed out people's kind of interpretations to help me understand what Kierkegaard was saying. And yeah, this just goes on for a really long time. And it was also at this point that this journal came into existence because I was like, I am stuck in this book, and it's going to be a while before I could take notes on anything else. So bought this one and started taking notes on other books in here. Okay, then I read one of many Mary Shelley biographies, and I took notes on it here. I took notes on this one specifically because it wasn't like just a Mary Shelley biography. It actually went through her mother and her father before she was alive, like their lives and how that led to Mary's existence and how that affected Mary's existence. And then it also talked a lot about the other authors that were there the night that Frankenstein was first conceptualized. So Lord Byron, John Polidori, and then of course Percy B. Shelley, as well as Mary's half sister Claire Clairmont. It was just, yeah, it was a lot. I thought this was like the most interesting biography that I had read at that point, so I took a lot of note. If you see me ranting about how shitty of a husband Percy B. Shelley was, it's because like this book really clearly laid out all of the ways that he failed Mary not only as a husband but as a father to their children. Also, if you hear me ranting about Lord Byron, this is also where I learned a lot of why I hate Lord Byron and why Caroline Lamb is a freak, but she's also a badass. And you can see most of this book is just me taking notes. Like, you don't see any other colors because it was just fact after fact after fact, and I wanted to know like what influenced this, what happened because of this, etc., etc. Oh, and you can see I actually introduced margins. There's some empty space in these pages now, so I wasn't a psychopath anymore, I guess. Okay, done with the Mary Shelley biography. Back to Celtic mythology again. I had a phase. It was bad. I was just obsessed with learning about this. I also started watching Outlander, which 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. I do not like Outlander. I literally DNF'd the series and returned it because it was just so bad. But it got me into like pagan practices in that era of Scotland and also Ireland, because Gaelis Duncan is, I think, an actual witch who lived in Scotland at the time. So that was kind of interesting, like the only interesting thing that I took from Outlander. Read my favorite read of the year, Romance of the Forest by Anne Radcliffe. I originally was only going to take notes on the introduction and I think, like the text explanation, but then it just devolved into me taking notes on everything. Because I love this book so much. It was so good. It's just such a classic Gothic novel, like the way that Gothic is supposed to be, the OG kind of Gothic. And I found it really fascinating to have read right after starting Either or by Soren Kierkegaard because I had been introduced to aesthetic theory. This type of Gothic writing is deeply steeped in aesthetic theory, which I, again, just found really interesting and really poignant as I was reading the book. And then also just reading about like what constituted classic Gothic suspense, because Anne Radcliffe was kind of one of the big names at the time who defined the genre, was really, really interesting. Had to take notes because I love my girl Anne, and lots of philosophy reading for me came out of this for sure. Then I read Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis, took notes on the introduction from the Barnes & Noble Classics copy. I also read Villette, I don't know how to pronounce it, and I took notes on the Oxford World Classics introduction, which was really good. I think painted a really great holistic story of how Villette came to be, because it was the last published book of Charlotte Bronte in her lifetime, and it came after the deaths of both Emily and Anne, and also their brother I don't know, the brother. So it's just really interesting to see the way that kind of shaped the story. And also, Charlotte was like the only remaining Bronte alive when people found out that the Bronte sisters were the actual authors behind all of those books, because originally they had all been published under pseudonyms with male names. And so Charlotte was also dealing with like the aftermath of people finding out that she was a woman who wrote these books, and it was kind of like the first dawning of the age of celebrity. And so the way that she kind of addresses that in Juliet is really interesting. You can't read this, but I read The Lottery and Other Stories, the 75th anniversary edition. And I thought the introduction by A.M. Holmes was really poignant. I don't think it's like particularly stand out or you can learn a lot from it. But yeah, I just wanted to write down some quotes from it and some things that I learned. My last entry is Ghosts by Edith Wharton. Currently making my way through this. I think I'm going to take notes on every single one of the short stories because they are all so freaking good. But the really special part about the NYRB edition that I'm reading is that there's a preface written by Edith herself. And she is such a funny person. She's funny and she hates humanity, and it comes out in her preface. I just thought that was beautiful, like chef's kiss. I wonder if she was a Sagittarius. Anyway, before I leave off, like I said, this is the last spread. I have about half of the book to go now. So you might have seen these dots at the top and bottom of every single page as we get later into the book. And that was kind of my way of differentiating, like, okay, these red dots at the bottom of the page, that's Mary Shelley's biography. But then suddenly it turns into green dots. Then we went into Celtic mythology. So every time the color of the dots or the location of the dots change, it signaled to me that we were on a completely different subject. And so that's how I started using the dots rather than sticking to a system, because as you can tell, I mostly took notes on literature, and so I would have used up all of the literature stickies and not been left with any for all of the future books that I have to read. But anyway, those are my commonplace notebooks. Thank you so much for listening to me yap for a very long time about them. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. Oh, I guess I should mention really quick, the pen that I use 90% of the time in this journal is the Pilot Acroball. This is a multi-pen that has my colors, of course, black, red, and blue, and also a mechanical pencil. That's really key for when I'm actually annotating books. These are all in 0.5 millimeter. I prefer the Acroball pen and ink to the Uni Jetstream. I know, sacrilegious, but that's just how it's always been. I started using Acroball many years ago, and then I got this, and it was life-changing. So, yeah. And these write really well on moleskins. It's like a dream. Very smooth, very consistent. And yeah, so if you're interested in checking out a pen that's great for moleskins, I recommend this, not the Uni Jetstreams. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good rest of your week. I'll see you next time. Bye.